share on your Twitter, Sheikh Amr? Some people follow you.
I don't have Twitter.
That's a lie. I've seen you on Twitter.
I mean, it's like barely. I don't even know how to use it.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Mamluks podcast. My name is Sim. Along with me are my co-hosts, Sheikh Amr and Mort. Welcome to the show, everyone. Another wonderful episode with the Mamluks. Sheikh, did you enjoy the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I made a very good decision. I ended up watching it with my family.
More, did you see the WhatsApp message where I invited the Sheikh?
I did,
and he just blew me off.
And it was like even a whole day in advance.
He didn't even respond.
No, you know what actually happened?
What happened now?
I'm not joking, bro. I thought I actually responded to. It's one of those things you open it and maybe I was busy with something and I thought I responded to it. But I apologize to you, bro. Why you gotta bring that up in front of everybody, bro? I already apologized to you about this before the show.
We feel like we're honest and transparent people, and
we have already dealt with it.
We want our listeners to know what kind of person you are at times.
Okay.
Because they should have a right to know the real nature of Sheikh Amr.
Yeah, they should.
Because sometimes it can be a D-bag and blow people off.
Yeah, it happens, I guess. But no, we had a lot of fun, bro. Everyone enjoyed it. Because we're not fans of any side, and we just want to.
I actually don't like Mahomes, and because he has a very punchable face.
He looks like Sideshow Bob.
Yeah,
doesn't matter. Y'all are haters, bro. He's
the Psycho Bob.
Called
Psycho Bob. Yeah, but I mean, but the one who dates like Amar's sister, right? Whatever. Yeah. But the point is this, though. I had a fun time because no.
I just got that.
You remember that episode?
Yeah,
I think so.
But no. The thing is, it was fun because it was, to be honest, regardless of who won, the last few Super Bowls have been blowouts, and blowouts are not fun. Like, if you want to see a game that's competitive and it was very close to the end. I will say this though, I do believe that last call was total BS.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, and I feel
that
like
was such garbage.
And the thing about it was, maybe you could argue it might have been some contact fine, but it wasn't even a catchable ball for him. It wasn't even like he had an opportunity to get the ball, right? It was just already overthrown. It wasn't, and I feel like if it was up to me, I think the last 2 minutes, the refs should just let the players play. Even in the NBA, even like in because those are how do you expect them to show aggression or
unless it's something completely blatant, flagrant, like obvious. No one calls a penalty in the last minute of the drive.
I don't even think that would have been called in the NBA. Like that.
No, that would have been called anywhere.
Yeah.
I think the ref just kind of buckled under pressure, and I think sometimes.
What's that thing? I heard somebody say that if there's a bad call made, then it's kind of like an unannounced rule that you just call a play for the other team too. What is that?
Look, I don't know.
I know it's ridiculous, bro. Because look. There was no pass interference. He just literally just touched his love handle for like a second or 2 seconds, bro. Yeah. And then it wasn't even in the process. It was just like there was so much time after that.
I thought like it would make sense that they would have like within 1 minute, if there's a penalty called, you can have like some kind of referee review. You know, the refs get together and kind of discuss it. It's especially like a playoff or Super Bowl. It's a very consequential game. We're not talking about every single game, but I think there is some value to because remember before video review came into play, everyone hated it, like video review. It's like, you're messing with the game and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, everyone said, oh yeah, makes sense. We're getting accurate calls and accurate placement of the ball, and everything is much more accurate because of video review. And then. But why shouldn't that apply to, penalties and stuff?
Yeah.
I think referees should be in question, right? I mean, I think it's not that we doubt them, but there's human error, right? And we're trying to eliminate the human error. And I mean, I think calls should be able to be reviewed, especially in the last 2 minutes of the game, like especially in games like this where they're crucial, where they're like major game changers. But nonetheless, I mean, and I will say this, even with that being said, though, Sim.
Yeah.
I think it's an unspoken rule that you as a team need to make sure that it never gets to that point where you lose because of that.
Yeah.
Because you have to expect calls that are not going to go in your favor and that are going to be totally, out of left field. And I think the Eagles had a lot of chances to to hold the ball, to score, a fumble they had, right? They had an opportunity to actually win the game, and so they have no one to blame but themselves. And I told you guys, I think I told you guys this before, I wanted the Eagles to win, but I had a feeling I knew Mahomes was going to win it. I mean, it's just...
Right. No matter what people say about him, he's a great QB.
I don't like him, but he's an extremely talented quarterback.
Yeah, how old is he? Like 25, 27?
Yeah. And the crazy thing is that to credit due to him because, like, the squad... the last previous squad people left, and this is a new young squad that came out, a bunch of rookies, and he was able to take them out, right? I mean, take them up to the Super Bowl and win it. And that means that, they've got a solid, they could potentially have a dynasty in the NFL. So it's a big thing. But I just don't like them, but yeah. But I also would like to point out in the comment of sports that on the topic of sports that I was correct. Islam Makhachev won it in the 5th round by decision.
You called it.
Can I get thanks?
Yeah, of course.
All right.
I will give you your props.
You get your props, bro.
Never doubt the Morty.
You called the decision in the previous episode.
We did.
I had 2nd round.
I had 3rd round.
Yeah.
I remember that. I'm not going to lie to you guys, bro. Everybody knows Islam Makhachev is awesome, but mad respect, bro, to that dude. Volkanovski, bro. I had no idea his wrestling was going to be that good, bro.
I mean, how could he not be, man? Bro. This guy was his second position in rugby, where your job is to plow through 6-foot guys that are 300 plus pounds.
But even the anatomy, remember we were talking about the anatomy during the fight? How he's that short, stocky, huge tree trunk legs. Each one of his legs was like twice the size.
First of all, people should know, number one, after watching the fight with him and Brian Ortega, don't try to go for this guy's neck. Yeah. He has no neck, bro, right? It's just too small. His head is too big. I think Islam Makhachev wasted time when he had that body triangle. He should have tried to maybe go for a Kimura, something else. I mean, even though Volkanovski has big arms, but I think he had more success attacking the arm than he would have trying to get him into a rear naked choke.
But I think, man, and I really believe this, I think after that fight, obviously Volkanovski is going to get better. But Islam Makhachev, I think we're going to see a whole different animal.
He's going to be better for sure.
We're going to see a whole different animal.
Not to mention, I don't know if you guys know, but he had a very hard weight cut. Very hard.
Yeah.
It was very difficult. But I do agree with what you're saying. I think that being pushed to the 4th and 5th round, put it this way.
He's never been there.
I don't think that there's anyone in his division that could, even if they were to go to the 4th and 5th round, push him in those rounds like Volkanovski did.
No. Volkanovski a whole different
animal. I think that means that what it means is 2 things. Volkanovski is going to clearly dominate his division when he goes back down.
Yes.
And then Islam is just going to dominate everybody in his division.
Yeah.
They made each other better.
Yeah. So if they do fight again, what's the strategy?
Honestly, I don't know. Because, people saying, he should stick to his wrestling, right? But I think when we started seeing in the 3rd and 4th round, 4th and 5th rounds, I'm sorry, Volkanovski's training in terms of being able to quickly spin up and rotate out of a takedown, right? And or takedown defense, right? Even after they land on the ground is phenomenal, right? And I think if he's, first of all, I do believe that Islam Makhachev did mess up in one way because he underestimated.
I don't think he underestimated him. That's what everyone's saying that. But I think he exactly was what he expected him. He had that short stature where it was extremely hard to take him down. That low center of gravity ended up making things extremely difficult for him. And that's why he wasn't calling him short in a disrespectful way. He was keep on referring to him as short because his height was making all the difference in
I think what Makhachev himself said he underestimated his wrestling, right? Because he was talking about Australian wrestling is not that great, and I believe that Volkanovski underestimated the power of
he said that too. The strength.
They both did underestimate each other in terms of that regard, but I think though even since Volkanovski's wrestling is much stronger than anticipated, I personally believe because of again his stature, when you wrestle him, you have to do what you did to Oliveira. Get away from the cage. Because if you notice, Volkanovski is so small and he's very tough on the ground. Like he's bigger than him, right? Meaning muscle-wise and strength. every time he would just turn and push him against the cage and then use either his body or the cage to get up and get out, right? Yeah. So you need to get him away from the cage, take him down in the middle of the octagon where he doesn't have ability to kind of push up off a leverage, right? And then go to work there. I think if you do the wrestling that you were doing like Khabib does against the cage and other things like that, it's not going to work on a guy like this. Like, you have to be in the middle if you're going to wrestle him. And I do believe that he has to start off wrestling. This idea that you're going to knock him out, that's not going to happen. I don't think you don't have... It's just not that you don't have the power. He's just a guy that has an iron chin. Like, he took a lot of beatings. He took a lot of straight hits from, like, people like Ortega. Many different people. He took a lot of strong hits from... Max Holloway's not a joke either. People think he's a lightweight, but he's not a light puncher, right? And this guy has the ability to withstand that, that hit. So if there's a second fight, to sum it up, it has to be focused on wrestling. Drop the idea of trying to knock him out. Respect his power.
We're wrestling in the middle of the ring.
Middle of the octagon, right? Not against the cage.
Because you saw that. You saw Volkanovski scrambling running towards the octagon,
right? He would slide over. Edge. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So you know that he's using the edge of the octagon to his advantage.
So I think another dilemma is that I think Chael Sonnen was right in his observation that the Dagestanis in the UFC or in cage fighting, their takedown is amazing with the cage. Right? If you see that their takedowns are good regardless, but where they're the best, where Khabib and Islam are the best, is when they use the cage for takedowns and the trips and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
If you see all of the submissions and all of the stuff that Khabib and Islam have, majority of them were against the cages, right? So you saw that when he was... Same exact thing happened to Khabib versus Conor. What happened? In the first round, he took him down. Conor wrapped him up and stuff, and then he kind of... And then nothing really happened after that, but it was a great takedown. It was great takedown defense, in all fairness to Conor. The same exact thing happened to Islam Makhachev when he took him down in the middle of the thing. He kind of got a little flustered because the power of Volkanovski, they got up, nothing really happened after that. Where he did shine was where he had him against the cage for that 2.5 minutes. But even then, that's where the double-edged sword is. The advantage of Volkanovski is against the cage, against wrestling, and the advantage that Islam Makhachev has in takedowns is against the cage, right? So I think the next fight, I think Islam Makhachev takes it again, but I think he's gonna get a lot better. I think Volkanovski's gonna get a lot better, but I think what I saw with Volkanovski, I don't know how much better he can get in wrestling, but I think Islam Makhachev can get better in striking for sure.
I think he can get better in jiu-jitsu. He can get better in grappling. Sure, he can. I mean,
I kind of feel like the way he was doing it was like that was like his peak, and I don't know how much better he can get.
I think his focus was to the takedown defense. He learned just enough grappling to avoid being submitted. He didn't really work on wrestling him. He was only working on his defense. You give him time to work on the offensive in wrestling, that could be a whole different Volkanovski. You get what I'm saying? He had 6-7 months, short months, to get ready to defend against a world champion Sambo. I mean,
yeah, that's actually true.
And judo guy, right? Yeah. So it was focused training, but now, they're not going to fight anytime soon. He can work on his wrestling because he's going to breeze through his division. No one doubts for a moment
his division's going to be easy.
Yair Rodriguez is going to stop Volkanovski, right? It's just not going to happen, right? No. So he could walk in there right now, tomorrow, after this fight, and still go beat him. It's no big deal, right? So he has a lot of time to work on his wrestling and come up. But yeah,
Volkanovski's a gangster, dude.
Yep, respect to him. Wonderful fight. I think they both. For any MMA fan, it was a hell of a performance to watch. It was very technical, very calculated. They both appreciated each other's power. You noticed, and there were moments where, like, you saw, like, why these two are, like, great. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
And with the Yair Rodriguez
But I'm surprised that they didn't give Makhachev pound for pound.
What do you mean?
No, they did.
No, he's not. They didn't rank him as pound for pound best.
Why?
I don't know. He's not there.
No.
I swear, look it up. He's still, and they asked somebody, I expect that to happen. He's like, I know there's always fixed, but he's pound, but they didn't give him the pound for pound.
Hey, that's the main reason why he did it too.
Yeah. I love how he kept saying, I am the number one champ.
But as far as the results go, I thought he did enough to win. But
he did. I mean, the breakdown was it was 3 rounds to 2. Because think about like the amount of time he had his back. Having someone's back on the ground is a winning round.
And 3 takedowns. Yeah. And striking also, he had a lot of significant strikes. I think where Volkanovski shined was in the kicking game.
Yeah.
And that could prove to be more dangerous later on too, because eventually you see that wearing down. I think part of Makhachev's fatigue was, number one, being constantly on the back foot because he was trying to spar with him. That's tough for somebody. It's a different kind of cardio than wrestling on the ground, right? Which he's used to. And secondly, having to move after your legs have been chopped up, that's even more difficult, right? And he kept doing those. By the way, he kept getting hit in the body as well, right? And that makes the breathing more difficult. So those kind of things, those low shots, because Volkanovski's a smaller guy, you've got to do a better job of avoiding.
So who decides the pound for pound champion?
I think it's a public.
Yeah, it's a public thing.
Right?
I don't know how. I mean, exactly how it's. I can't comment on that, but I know he didn't get it.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he's feeling. The articles are saying that he feels snubbed by not being declared the pound for pound.
And he should
champion.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one thing that I was just thinking in retrospect, no Dana White or nobody ever said that if he won. It was kind of like him and Habib's thing to fight him in Perth, but I don't think anybody ever made an announcement that, hey, the winner of this is going to be the pound for pound best fighter in the world. Islam Makhachev just kept on saying that.
Does the UFC decide who's pound for pound?
I don't it looks like it's media members, I think.
Yeah, it's media members that decide, right? Yeah. So it's not UFC so they can't comment on that. Like, oh, you're gonna be pound for pound the best, right? But it's the media that kind of didn't want to give it to him.
ShareDog, I think, started that. ShareDog.com back in the day started.
Yeah.
That.
So I mean, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but you know what? Makhachev commented and goes, you know what? I expect that. I don't really care. Like, I know I'm number one champ. You know, like so. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, man. And you were so right. Like, obviously, we expected him to be like Habib. Remember? You're like, going to search the Yahma.
Oh, yes. No, I mean, I feel like, you know what? I mean, I'm not saying he's not religious. MashaAllah, he is.
I know. It was just like, really fun watching with you guys.
Yeah, but like that humbleness, right? Like, have shukr, you know, that Allah saves you from a potential humiliation. Like, but I mean, Volkanovski is a real threat. Everyone even announced later on that even in circles within his camp were saying that this is going to be his hardest fight. Like, this is the fight they were most worried about, right? And so, thank Allah, you know, it makes sujood that you just won this fight. You know, like this solidifies your legacy pretty much, right? Yeah. And so that's what my only thing was, right? Because I think those are those moments where it really shines. You know, like, you know, what's, you know, it's just, you know, something.
Yeah, I have to agree with Morton. I think you have to put your thumb on display. I mean, that's what the thing that made. Yeah, that's his name.
He's got to carry on Habib's legacy too.
You're carrying the torch from Habib and his father and
father's plan.
The dawah that happens just from those small moments is immeasurable. You can't calculate how much effect that is happening on the entire world because of the Muslim fighters in UFC with the whole Andrew Tate thing happening. It's a huge impact that it's got many young people, many young kids all across the world who are interested in Islam now.
Oh, very much so.
The religion, not the fighter.
So what was that thing? If we could shift gears a little bit, you guys had mentioned something about.
There was some revelations that basically the accusers who made all these accusations against Andrew Tate, they are in effect were in collusion, and there is a whole lot of WhatsApp evidence from WhatsApp chats that have been made public, and it's from at least from what I've read, it seems very like obvious. No, it's not. It's pretty obvious that these.
I mean, their plan was sketchy. Yeah,
they were planning on framing Andrew Tate, and
I mean, it was very clear about the language that, hey, we have to pretend that we were like this, we're being abused, or that, you know, we have to shed some fake tears, you know, cry some fake tears, and mentions of like, I should get an Oscar. We have to contact other people for a movie.
Yeah, we gotta contact Netflix and
and Hulu and
oh snap.
Yeah. And then there was also a conversation between one of these, you know, women and a woman and her parents saying, why did you alert the authorities when this is all just really a scam? Like, what were you thinking? Like, you know, like you're really not in danger, like that kind of thing, right? That vibe, if you know what I'm talking about. And I don't know if you have the
here we go. So Andrew Tate and his brother are currently under Romanian police custody after being arrested, blah blah blah, we know that. However, Spy News Row claimed that exclusive wiretaps documenting the conversation between the alleged victims of Tate showed that the two women allegedly planned to frame the former kickboxer. So there's more.
There's actually, I actually saw the conversation. Let me see if I can.
As per the wiretap footage, the victims allegedly planned to set up Tate and his brother by pretending that they were in love during their time together. The women then planned to pretend to be ignorant if they were caught on Tate's property during a police raid. The women also allegedly discussed being in disguise to avoid being recognized following the raid. Images of the wiretaps documenting the conversation between the women were published on Twitter, leading to an immediate meltdown. So yeah, here's some of the pictures.
Oh yeah, so if you read the tweet I just sent you, Tam posted the pictures of the conversation actually, and it's pretty interesting. So maybe I'll try to read some of that. It says basically here, let's start with page 1. It says, "You're a good actress," and she's like, "True, I practice, perfecto. Just play it cool, got it. Like you don't know, play dumb. I'm gonna pull some tears, and play dumb. Good advice, thank you, babe. We're so good though. We need a effing Oscar. Let's go. Let's just play it cool and change my name so it will not start with A. LOL, got it. Yeah, I told you to be like saying a nice message and that we are hurt or, bleep like that. And that we do love him, but I love them, but just don't. So they will not think we are really against them, Yeah, that's smart. Play the victim. I mean, we are, but act like we still love them and stuff. And she's like, haha, we are, question mark? Wait, what? Like, it's just like, and then this is the conversation. Yeah, and so it says like to the mom, I think, well, tomorrow we should wear makeup and sunglasses so nobody really notices what we look like or who we are. Yeah, I guess. LOL. We are writing a movie ASAP. Yep. And then it goes on to say that for sure we have to. I'm dying inside. Let's email Netflix ASAP, Hulu, Amazon Prime. I mean, the messages between two girls, the two alleged victims. And then here's the conversation between the woman Emma Gabby and her family. Look, I know you don't believe I can handle this, but I can. I'm not concerned. Tristan doesn't really care if I leave him. Yeah, if I leave, going because we've made the brothers believe that we are in love. They think we will run back. Anyways, and then the mom goes, main concerns are coming from things that some of the girls are saying. There's a lot to explain. We will be out of here fine. Don't think they care about much if we leave anyways, which is why I feel okay. I will make the call. Do the right thing in the situation. Right now, we both want to be in London. And then she's talking to her mother. And he goes, listen to the voice message. And the mother goes, go to London, but why have all the American embassy on alert? You are causing a major upheaval because their Marines and all American squad is on the go now. F it.
Oh, snap.
F it. You called, I didn't. Mom, I want to leave to London. You called, that's on you. Tell them to come Tuesday when we leave. They can see everything. Look, if you stop me from going to London, expect me to disappear. I want to go to London. And then she goes, how dare you put me in anger like that? You called, not me. And Mona says, go to hell, Emma. This is your ignorance, and the ignorance and is BS. Go to Whoop Land or Bangkok or Bora Bora. Who is stopping you? The whole American embassy is on alert. Shame on you. Like, that's your fault. Thanks. So the mother's basically condemning her, saying, you know what, you're creating a shenanigan. Essentially, that you're getting all the embassies involved for nothing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Believe all women. Hashtag believe all more women.
Believe all women. Me too. He too. Everybody too.
So as far as like the legitimacy and accuracy of these like messages, how did these surface?
Well, these are court documents for evidence. I mean, this is from court. It's not like
from court.
Yeah. These are evidence. This is evidence in the trial, or like in evidence being produced.
I'm sure like Tate's attorney probably leaked them out.
Good for him.
Her.
Rightfully so.
I think.
Yeah, to her too. Her. Yeah, but whoever it is, good. because people need to know that there are people that will do this. And what I love about this is that this is coming on the back of what Johnny Depp just went through. Yeah. So people are more likely to say, wait, women do this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, this is not abnormal.
No, look, a lot of people knew that women do this stuff. They just didn't want to sound sexist and say it in public, bro. People do all types of stuff, but they just don't want to say it because they don't want to look bad. They don't want to go against the thing. You know, it happens in every walk of life, bro.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I don't...
What?
No, nothing.
I just don't know like how the Romanian process works, because it seems like pretty clear cut that this has all been made up.
So I think they can hold you for 90 days. And so this is approaching the final 30, it's in 30-day increments. Yeah. So this is the final 30 days. If they can't bring enough charges to say that, evidence to say that this was actually a legitimate claim, they can't hold them any longer. They have been, till this day, my understanding is, I could be wrong, but to this date, there have been no formal charges against the Tate brothers.
Yeah.
Right? So what that means is, I don't know if this is going to help build that case for them that, you know what, this is clearly just shenanigans. I mean, no one in clear and, you know, true danger would be writing stuff like this, right? As a victim. But again, like Sim said, you know, Romania is a wild, wild place. And people have, you know, money in that part of the world. Money is everything, more so than other places in the world. And, you know, who knows? But apparently there have to be filing some charges to keep them there if they want to.
Well, yeah. And Tate, the thing that this is not like the Matrix that was after Tate. It was just a bunch of couple girls who wanted his money, you know. And
what was the whole thing about? Even like some other people were saying that the Romanian government was after him about something. What was that about?
No, I think what happened was these women orchestrated something, as the mother mentioned, the thing that they got all these embassies and the government on high alert because they're American citizens. And what happens is the American government, we all know, the embassy can pressure other governments, because Romania got a bad rap because what's happening was they want to protect their identity and not be like this safe haven for criminals in Europe, right? The whole reputation of Eastern Europe, right? So they're like, okay, big brother America, we're going to do your bidding for you. We're going to show you that we are your partner and ally, right? People can't come here and just mess around. I think that's what it was really about. I don't think Romania really gives a crap. Yeah. They don't really care.
The thing is, you know, I understand like Tate taking on the Matrix, quote unquote, but I don't think he understands what the Matrix is. I don't think he understands even the allegory that the Matrix movies are making about what the Matrix is. The Matrix is the pursuit of illusions, right? The pursuit of putting Deception. Putting a mask over everything and not seeing the reality for what it is. That you're being pacified and you're being given lies from all across the world so that you don't recognize what's the truth, you know, and I think as he explores Islam better, I think he'll understand what the true nature of the Matrix is, and when it comes to how you develop that, at least as a Muslim, how you understand your relationship with Allah and your ultimate objective as going to Jannah, the pursuit of pleasure and money and wealth and all these things. Those things are the Matrix.
The dunya itself is
the Matrix.
The consumerism, the desire for the dunya is itself a delusion, right? Like, meaning that you think you're going to last forever, enjoy this money forever. You know, you think everything is going to be perfect if you can do just this much more or make this much more money or buy this many more clothes. You're going to have the illusion that you're going to attain true happiness and bliss and contentment in this world is a Matrix.
Yeah. And there are people who know that it is the Matrix, and they, like, for example, in the movie The Matrix, there's someone who was part of the rebels. He's I can't remember the actor's name, but there's like a scene where he's just like talking to one of the agents from the Matrix, and he's like biting into a steak, and he's like, I love this. This is what I don't want to have any memory of what the truth is, the real world, you know. I just want to know this Matrix is the real thing, and that's all that matters to me, you know. And this is what essentially kufr is, right? You're bearing the truth. You don't want to know what the truth is, and you're willfully ignoring what your fitra is inclining you to. You this innate moral compass that it's always pointing you to the true north, the truth. And I think as he, inshallah, I hope as he understands Islam better in prison and stuff, he comes to this understanding where this life of, you know, women and cars and wealth and telling young men to that, hey, you know, you can be successful like me, that this is not actually success. You know,
that's a great point.
You know,
what is actually success? Yeah.
What the true success, when you accepted Islam, is that Jannah and the seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is your ultimate success. And I truly hope that sometime in this time that he spent in prison allowed him to think about some of these concepts. And because that's where ultimately you kind of spend time alone and reflecting on your life and figuring out what, you know, what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong, and hopefully just, you know, that it's called khalwa, right? Where you're kind of just spending some time alone and sorting things out in your head. Usually after a traumatic moment, khalwa helps, right?
Yeah, just secluding yourself from people and just you need that time alone, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know one thing, that Matrix moment, like that movie, one of my favorite movies is Fight Club, and there's a quote in there which I love. I was just looking it up. It says, I love it when Tyler says this. He goes, "Advertising has us chasing cars and clothes, working jobs we hate, so we can buy shit we don't need. We're the middle children of history, man. No purpose or place. We have no great war, no great depression. Our great war is a spiritual war. Our great depression is our lives. We've all been raised on television to believe that one day we'd all be millionaires and movie gods and rock stars, but we won't. And we're slowly learning that fact, and we're very, very pissed off." It's kind of like the whole thing, right? You've been cheated. Like, hey, you just work hard, you're going to get this. You do this, you get your degree, you get your money, you get the car, you get this stuff. You're going to be just fine. Everyone's going to love you and respect you. Like,
but even on a communal level, on a large community level, it's giving people certain type of numbing agents to forget about things, you know, and like entertainment has a lot of
consumerism is right.
Not only that, just entertainment and even what's happening in the world, like give people what they want in every sense, you know, is fulfilled, so they won't have to care about what else is happening, you know, what other issues there are in society and ailments. And when you said as far as the Matrix, you know, things that are the truth, things that are supposed to be the truth, you want the artificial world to be the truth, right? And that's so crazy, man, is because I know like almost every episode comes back to this because it's something so egregious, but people are forced, and many people believe that what is something isn't anymore, right? And that's like the most molecular level of our existence, our humanity, right? And us being humans, a male and a female. And if those things are blurred, if any male can be a female, any female can be a male, you have nothing else left that can be changed. That is the most molecular cornerstone of society, a male and a female, right? If that itself is blurred, I mean, then there's nothing else left.
You know what? I hate to be redundant, but it goes back to what Sim is always talking about. Unfortunately, one of the catalysts for a lot of these things is capitalism.
Yeah.
Meaning that, look, the idea that women reversing roles, right? Who benefits? There's more tax dollars. There's more people to appeal who have independent agency to buy and sell things. They can go and buy products, goods. They have to look a certain way to make money. When you have this, the whole rainbow movement, right? Companies profit off of this. It's profitable for them to engage these movements to create. Now you have a whole new subset of a population that is appealing to. You're selling goods to. You're making them believe a certain lifestyle. And to be honest, do you think these marketing executives or producers or content creators, they truly, really care deeply about these causes? No, it's a way for attention, for views, for money, for products, for more consumer engagement, right? At the core of it all, this is a business to them. They're not concerned with how you end up. They're just concerned with taking your money, right? Gaining captivating you and keeping that control so they can keep you in this perpetual cycle of buying and buying and buying and buying. And people might be confused because I say I am a capitalist, but in a true form. Like what we're seeing here now is like, it's exploited capitalism, right? I mean, there's no checks and balances. It's clearly done with the intent that we are intentionally going to blur the lines and ignore everything that we've learned, all our moral our moral compasses for the sake of profit alone.
Yeah.
And at the core of it, this is what it is. Do you think the let's say the LGBTQ movement or things like Me Too or the feminist movement or any of these things would truly thrive if there was no profit behind it? I don't believe they would.
No,
that's true. That's true, actually.
So, one of your tweets went viral.
Oh yeah,
mashallah, Mubarak on viral.
Thank you, viral
Mubarak on the virus.
It's a great tweet. So
viral Mubarak, I guess.
Let's go ahead here and okay. So Mort shares this picture where I think it's like is this a Target?
I don't know where it is, but I got it in the in our fitness group.
So anyone who's just watching or listening on the podcast audio only, where we're looking at a picture of some mannequins who have that's not even a dad bod; they're just fat dudes,
like grotesquely fat bellies.
That's not grotesque. That's kind of a dad bod.
It's a little bit worse than dad bod.
It's just because the arms look small.
Dad bod means like you still got a little fat on you, but you're not.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is more like you just had like 10 plates of biryani and you're belching on it, and you're imagine forcing everything out with your stomach.
Not that
dude,
bad.
Are you kidding me?
I mean, it's bad, but it's not like the worst.
They look pregnant,
it's not
bro.
the worst. Okay, but still, we've never seen mannequins.
Or we're not used to seeing mannequins.
Mannequins are typically shekhammer are supposed to be
like
things
chiseled.
they're supposed to be like the ideal version of each gender, right? What is this disgusting thing, man?
I don't know. It's kind of like me. It's probably what I'm saying.
So the reason why
Mort puts a caption: this body positivity movement has gone too far. May Allah protect us from this. I mean. Umar ibn al-Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, saw a man with a large belly and said, "What is this?" The man said, "It is a blessing from Allah." Amir al-Mu'mineen, Umar radiallahu anhu responded, "No, rather it is a punishment."
Yeah. And the reason why I put this out there is because, to be fair, like, look, if someone is overweight, and none of us are like, model types, right? But the idea is that it's not okay to be satisfied with taking something which Allah gave you as an amana,
the vessel,
yeah,
and then saying, we're going to now normalize just not taking care of your body, right? Like I get that. I mean, mannequins that weren't fat didn't stop people from buying clothes. Right? I mean, you still bought clothes, right? Yeah. But the idea was like, hey, you buy clothes because the mannequin looks good in the clothes, and you're like, hey, you know what? Maybe one day I want to look like that. Maybe my clothes would look better if if I lost some weight or took care of myself, right?
Yeah.
And the idea is that I'm not saying fat people are punished. And by the way, maybe you can explain the hadith, because I don't want people to think that people are cursed because they're fat. That's not what the hadith is saying. But the point being, though, is that we as Muslims always we try to take role models and set goals that are good for us, right? And we have a higher expectation. Like when we look at the kind of man that we want to be, we look at the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we look at the Sahaba, right? When we look at advices, right? Even when we do things in career, right? Muslims should excel, right? Try to be the best you can be. If you have a body, try to keep the body the best it can be. I believe Imam Malik rahimahullah was of that opinion that scholars specifically should have strong bodies because they carry knowledge. They're an influence, right? Like people see knowledge, and he doesn't want to associate the knowledge of Islam with weakness and careless bodies. And so things like that, we that was the thought behind the tweet, that we shouldn't normalize this. And unfortunately, in our communities, it's very normal to say, listen, oh, you got married, or you're an alim, or you're a sheikh. Oh, it's cool. It's justifiable. You have a belly, right? And it's not okay.
Yeah. No, I think there's obviously many parts to that riwayah, the narration about Umar radiallahu anh, I think the first thing is Umar radiallahu anh was able to notice this person's belly, right? Look, not everybody has a six pack. To maintain a six pack is a very difficult thing.
Yeah.
Unless if you're genetically, and since birth, you're really skinny, right? But somebody who never had a six pack, to have a six pack, it takes a lot of torture to remain in that state, right? So there's nothing wrong with not having a six pack. There's nothing wrong with having a flat stomach or even a little bit of flab. It's totally cool, right? Yeah. There's even a lot of athletes, some great athletes that are not. And the reason I'm mentioning that is, look, when it becomes noticeable, the man's belly was actually kind of big, right? So Umar radiallahu anh noticed his stomach and he said, "What is this? Like, what are you carrying on your body?" Right? So when the man says, why would the man say this is the blessing of Allah? What he's trying to say is, I'm consuming the rizq of Allah and he's giving me rizq and I'm very thankful for it.
Yeah.
Right? He wasn't being malevolent. He wasn't being malicious.
He wasn't being sarcastic. He was just saying that Allah had given me enough to eat. And so,
and on the face value, that makes a lot of sense. It's like, you know what? Yeah. He's a sign of, this mentality is a very, very old mentality, and it carries through. Like, if you talk to people in the hood from like the 90s and the 80s and the 90s, they'll say that if this brother started gaining weight, he was eating good and he was making money, like that kind of thing.
Healthy.
Yeah, healthy. We all have that. Like,
what's that? Healthy?
Healthy.
A lot of us.
Healthy in Urdu means turmeric.
No. They'll try to say healthy, but like in the English,
that's healthy.
They would come and they would say, "Kitna healthy hai."
Like, if you're a little overweight, because look, back home, if everybody's really skinny, they would like to see somebody who's overweight, and they'd be like, "Wow, this person's really healthy," right? But that being said, they would consider that healthy, right?
I heard even in North Africa, they like in Mauritania, where you're from. I think you're from your homeland.
I'm from India, bro, but I was born in the States.
But your adopted homeland, you're Al-Mauritani. Like I'm Al-Madani and you're Al-Mauritani?
No.
Al-Yemeni, right here?
That's fine. No, that's a whole different story, right? That's of how men preferred women to be overweight, right? And that's an old Arab preference and tradition. But the funny thing is that when some American dudes would go to Mauritania and be overweight, they're like, "Why is he acting like a woman?" They used to associate, and sometimes you would see the way really overweight people walk and the way women
waddle.
It's the same thing. Mm-hmm. So that's why they would be really confused, like, why is this guy trying to be a woman? Wallahi, I used to hear that. Because so they associate fat, because Mauritanian men are, at least back then, they were really skinny. Really skinny.
Well, they've gotten overweight now?
I don't know. I haven't been there in a long time. I have no idea.
Maybe we should make it a TMM trip. We go back and check up on your people.
Yeah, I would love to go to Mauritania. Would you go to Mauritania with us?
Of course I would.
I would be kind of nervous about going with him.
No, of course
because he might complain a lot about.
I would, bro.
I just need food.
Yeah, the city has decent food, bro. You'll be sick for a while.
We should.
But anyways, let's get back to the saying of Umar radiallahu anh.
I don't want to be sick, bro.
Let's get back before we.
And I want a water tank nearby, like a traveling water tank.
You can get bottled water.
No, remember the story that Sheikh told me told us in the
water,
story of Sheikh Amr.
It's like a
part
water
1, part 2, and part 3.
He's talking about the.
When they were starving.
Yeah, the water sack.
The big water balloon. The water balloon was empty.
Yeah. That's not going to be in the city, bro. They don't have that.
I want a big water balloon traveling with me, man.
No, we're not going.
I want a big wagon with a water balloon.
Bro, if we went, we would just visit. We wouldn't stay there for weeks. We'd stay there for maybe 24 hours.
Bro, imagine one of those red radio flyer wagons.
We're not students
with
anymore,
a big water balloon.
Bro, imagine this. You're such a...
Bro, I want that.
Bro, guys, we completely...
You know how Imagine Sim
went off on a tangent.
Do you know those backpacks that have the water, the camel sack, where the water line running to the mouth? It's Sim walking.
No, guys. Alhamdulillah. Now, I'll tell you guys one thing.
I can't be without water for 3 days.
No, guys, listen. Something to think about. Alhamdulillah, we're not students anymore. Alhamdulillah, we make money now. Right? If we go there, we would rent out a Jeep. We would have a driver with us all the time.
$30 a day, a month.
Bro, we wouldn't have to worry about... Bro, when we were there students, we would hitchhike everywhere, bro. One of the times we hitchhiked to the desert, right? We had to go in this huge truck that was the empty bed that carries the rocks and cement. It was empty. Me and 3 other students, it was all metal, bro. And that's what we were sitting. We hitchhiked, and that's how we got back.
My cousin...
If I was there, bro, I'd be waiting for a UN air relief package. big cargo, man. Come on, we're in the desert ship.
Dude, they were living so ghetto. My cousin,
we light up flares, try to get the airplane's attention.
The UN ain't gonna pay attention to you, bro. They don't care about you,
bro.
They were living so ghetto. My cousin got hit with a donkey cart outside his house.
I remember that.
And broke his nose. But anyways, yeah.
So in Umar radiallahu anh, so the guy actually had it's a good thing that man said that, because look, if somebody has some religious inclination and they thank Allah after every meal, they can actually rationalize, rightfully so, that, hey, you know what, alhamdulillah, it's a blessing of Allah that I'm in this condition. Some people used to be really skinny when they started making money. Alhamdulillah, they gained some weight, and to them, they're at least alhamdulillah, I'm thankful about everything Allah's given me. Yeah. But Umar radiallahu anh, actually, because of his principles, because of the very, very the level of personality of Umar radiallahu anh, he wasn't having that either. Right? He's saying what you have with you is a type of torture, right? It's a punishment, meaning that this is going to slow you down. Well, thank you. Wow, that was beautiful.
This is my for the listeners who heard that. This is my.
I thought there was an ocean in here for a second.
Yeah.
This is my water deposit.
Yeah.
No, I never actually heard it in the headphones before. That's why. But anyway, so
Excuse me.
No, that's fine. So Umar radiallahu anh, there was, I think there's a two-pronged approach here. Number one is, for him to see this man in this condition, he's like, there's no way this man can be a fighter like this, right? There's no way this man can be like in his optimal manlyhood, in his manhood this way. That's number one. And number two, look, you have to remember that, and you guys probably noticed that, is like when you lose weight, you start to realize how much easier things become for you and how much easier it becomes to breathe, and waking up becomes easier, and going to sleep, is different. It's very different. Rest is different. And, walking up the stairs doesn't get you tired, and your stomach doesn't get in the way sometimes, Your stomach actually does get in the way of things,
Yeah, so I just wanted
to, bedtime stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Blanket becomes
your sexual prowess becomes better. Yeah, but anyways, listen, I wanted you to bring this up because I wanted to clarify this as well too, because unfortunately tweets are limited to what you can only tweet at one time, but like all these narrations, you have to take them in context with other, right? So I just want to mention something that Umar ibn Khattab also said. He says, "Oh people, beware of eating too much, for it makes you lazy in prayer. It's bad for your body and causes sickness. Allah dislikes the fat man. Rather, you should be moderate in your eating, for that is closer to righteousness and farther removed from the extravagance, and makes one stronger to worship Allah. No person will be doomed unless he gives precedence to his desires over his religious commitment." Yeah. And so the whole idea was to warn him that being obese is impeding your ability to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yes.
You could worship better, because it goes back to the ayah, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. So the more the better you are to worship Allah, the better in a position that you're going to be in.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah, so I think that was the context, not that this man is being punished, but more so that he is depriving himself of being a better, or a better servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah. I'll tell you this much.
Tell us.
You remember when you were in Mauritania? Right, I think you were. This is 2007, right?
This is 2002.
Wait, no.
What happened 9/11, bro?
India. My brother.
2004, 2003, 2004.
Was it 2004? Yeah. So when my brother got married, was that 2004? Yeah.
2003,
you were there for his wedding.
Yeah, 2004. Yeah.
He came back from his marriage in India, and he sees me, bro. I was so fat. All right.
I think that was probably the heaviest you ever were, 2004.
I remember that face.
I was 60 pounds overweight. 60 pounds overweight. And the first words he says, "Bro, you got so fat." And it pissed me off. It got me so mad, bro.
Burnt, yeah.
I'm like, especially like the first thing you said, but alhamdulillah, I'm glad he said it, bro. Because that lit a fire under my butt.
Yeah.
That made me get on the treadmill. I eventually, I could barely walk, bro. I mean, I was, there's no way I could run, but so I could walk, right?
Yeah,
so it wasn't that, I kind of overstated.
Yeah.
I could walk. So I went on the treadmill. I bought a treadmill, put it in the living room, set it at 3, just went at the 3 setting for an hour. First, it was like a half an hour.
Yeah.
Then pushed it to an hour, and then eventually, started jogging, and then started, in increments, right? So I think it took me like 3 to 4 months where I ended up doing some really bad calorie restriction. I think I was at like around 800 to 1,000 calories a day. But in 3 months, I dropped most of the weight. And I got like within 10 to 15 pounds of my goal weight. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's when I would send you some pictures of me. I'm like, hey, look, I dropped all this weight. I was so excited.
And that's one thing that happens when you travel overseas and you come back.
Yeah.
You see how big everybody actually is and how the world sees Americans is so fast, especially back then. I remember when I came back. Remember when I went to Mauritania, I was 188 pounds.
Yeah.
Right? And I came back, I was like 100. One of the times it was 150, I think 145.
You were super skinny when you came back, bro.
But everyone looked obese to me. I was like, everyone just looked like a bunch of marshmallow men.
No, I swear, I remember because, well, there's one brother of ours who didn't really change his weight, but I don't want to, he did later on though, alhamdulillah. Yeah. I mean, now, no, but I mean, like even my cousin, who you know, he was never always like, he wasn't like a skinny guy all the time, right? But just coming back.
He's permanently skinny.
Yeah, but coming back after that Mauritanian days, like he's been like slim, petite weight, like just, and I think like, it's just, I think what happens also, a lot of this is also your perception, your relationship with food. Yeah. You know, your activity level, what you appreciate, like it's a whole lot of things. But the bottom line is whatever it takes you. I think that the point that I got from Sim here in this is that in relation to what I tweeted, if we normalize being big and not doing anything about it, no one's going to change.
And someone has to be direct with you. Yeah. Somebody like Ronaldinho has to be direct with you. Yeah. But even though my brother wasn't being mean to me, he was just playing
the obvious fact. Yeah. But he was shocked though.
But
that's what he said.
We're so conditioned with like all the niceties and fluffness and all the the niceties or the decorum of not offending, sugarcoating. That the point that you're trying to get across to the person is completely lost because you're just more worried about the person getting offended than actually fixing them, you know?
And to be honest though, that is something that is we should warn against, right? A true friend is going to tell you the reality because they want good for you, right? Yeah. Like if you lie to somebody or you just avoid it over and over again, you're enabling bad behavior, right? Like if I was someone that, I don't know, like if there was, let's give an extreme example. Somebody who is married and he's a close friend of yours and he's looking for haram, right? Outside of marriage. If you didn't tell him that this was wrong and you kind of just brush it off and say, hey man, you know, it's all right, you're having these feelings, right? It's normal. Everyone is, God created you how you are, right? And you didn't tell him, hey brother, this is wrong. You have a duty to your family, right? If you didn't say those things, whatever else you're telling him, you're enabling that behavior.
Yeah, I know.
Right? You are not helping your brother. If you truly cared about somebody, you would say, listen, that is haram, bro. Fear Allah in what you're doing. If you need to do it the right way, but don't do it that way, right? And so this applies, lives. Right? And this is true companionship, right? Yeah. Because the friend, you don't want someone who's going to say yes to you all the time. If you do, then that means that you're not really looking for companionship. You're looking for validation.
Yeah. Very true. Very
and
true.
So there's a big difference. So
I think when you get older, you appreciate that. When you get older, especially I think as dudes, you really need someone to tell you that, like, you know, something's not cool. But look, guys, there's a reason why when somebody gets married, you know, there's a certain khutbah that's read, the khutbah al-hajjah, and even in Salat al-Jum'ah, right? What is one of those verses, the last one that, you know, you don't have to follow the specific order, but يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا.
أما بعد.
Brothers, all believers with an exclamation mark.
That's my favorite
Be
part.
conscious of Allah.
Amma bad is my favorite part.
It's probably the least important part.
It's just me and what is the
It's very important. Yeah. But anyways, no, check this out. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله. Believers with an exclamation mark. Be conscious of Allah. And be straightforward in your speech, right? What happens if you're straightforward in your speech is a result of it next. يُصْلِحْ لَكُمْ أَعْمَالَكُمْ. Allah will fix your actions for you. And you better your actions. يُصْلِحْ لَكُمْ أَعْمَالَكُمْ وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ ذُنُوبَكُمْ. And in turn, and also forgive your sins. وَمَنْ يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ فَقَدْ فَازَ فَوْزًا عَظِيمًا. And whoever obeys Allah and His Messenger, they're going to have the ultimate success, right? So there's a reason why these verses are the verses of taqwa are read to somebody before they're going to have a marriage, a very, very grand moment in their life, a very life-changing. But every Jummah, when the believers gather together, this is the most important time to give them the best advice.
Yeah.
And the best advice is the 3 verses that are of having God consciousness and fear of Allah. Now, the funny thing is now that one of the brothers I was talking to, he's like, yeah, man, and they say this is supposed to be read in marriage, but if you say that qulu qawlan sadida with your missus, you're straightforward all the time with your missus, what's going to happen? Because he's like, guys are never, he's like, how often do we actually tell them the truth? Because we don't want to hurt their feelings. So he's like, do we just say the truth and have a horrible marriage? Or
but I think they're confusing it though, right?
Yeah,
because the Rasul was never unempathetic in his speech to people.
You're right.
So he spoke the truth, but he spoke it in such a way that it was palatable for them.
Not only that, but you have to have a track record of being the person that when he tells you something, he's not saying it to pull you down or hurt you. He's saying it because he loves you.
And also, exactly, it's the deliverance, right? Yes. Like, he didn't just come and berate you and talk down to you, but he, for example, even remember the incident where, I forgot which Sahabi it was, but he said, Ibn Sauda, when we were talking about the color of his skin, he says, what is the stench of Jahiliyyah in you?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like, oh, that's wrong, what are you doing? But what is the stench that you have with you?
What a beautiful way of putting it.
Right? It's not even like it's not even saying you're wrong or you're something bad about you, but what's this thing that you're carrying with you that's so bad?
Yeah.
Was this regarding the Bilal thing?
When
he was rebuking a Sahabi for being kind of racist towards
Bilal. Was it
Abdurrahman
bin Auf that said this? I think, I don't know. It was one of the companions. He said something. He wanted him to Bilal to lead him in something or something like this, and it was something about something of that nature, right? Where it was like, I forget. Anyways, the point being was he made a comment about the blackness of Bilal, like him being born to a black mother, right? Or and so the Prophet was informed about this, and he asked him. He didn't, instead of by correcting him, he says, "What is this stench, this wretched smell from Jahiliyyah that you have with you?"
That remains with you.
Yeah. Well, again, being truthful and getting your point across doesn't mean you have the right to be an a-hole, right? You can be a nice person, and maybe you could say something with love and still get the point across. Yeah. You don't. I mean, we don't want to get into this this way of certain movements and with among non-Muslims where you should
accept
just be a jerk and you don't want to be that. There's one extreme and then there's another extreme where people are just being rude and jerks to each other. And
the dilemma is this, Sim, look, dude, check this out. Telling somebody, depending on, a majority of the people that you see something wrong with, I'm not talking about your close friends or whatever, because close friends, you could joke around about it, you could say whatever, and they get it, right? But a majority of people that you have to tell something that if they're doing something wrong, it's not an easy thing to do, bro.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge. Like, everybody knows it's not easy, bro, but someone has to do it. That's one of the acts of submission towards Allah that we have, is you have to correct something if you see it, and that's where the hadith actually has its context, is that you can stop it with your hand, right? And that's obviously for like your children and people that you really, really are responsible for and you have authority over, right? Or with your tongue, which is for the general public, or with your heart. And the reason why it says with your heart is that if you do feel it in your heart, that means you still have a little pulse of iman left, but you weren't able to do anything about it. But if you don't feel anything bad, that's the problem now, right? That's when we've been completely desensitized, right? But having that conversation with somebody, a majority of people, because we all love our own brothers and sisters, and if we see them doing something wrong, we really wish that we can tell them. And if we were doing something wrong, like you said, it lit a fire in your butt as soon as your brother told you something, right?
It did, man.
And look, that conversation is uncomfortable, especially with other people, especially with your brothers and sisters, but it has to happen. They are going to get hurt a majority of the time.
They're going to get hurt, and it has to come from someone who loves you.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean you're an a-hole either. It doesn't mean you're a jerk because you're correcting them. It doesn't mean you think you're better than them. You actually just don't want to stand in front of Allah, and that person says, Allah, nobody told me, right? And you saw it. You don't want to be that person standing in front of Allah. Like, okay, that person was there. You're good to go. You can enter the gardens. Hey, let me talk to you real quick. We don't want that to happen either, right? That's what we want to be safe from. Not that we're better than other people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the problem is that at this point, at least from what I could tell from young people these days, is that they don't want to be told anything.
Yeah.
They don't want to even be suggested something even in a nice way. It's getting to a point where they just want to be left
alone because everything's accepted now.
I call it the Tupac mentality.
If you're not accepting them, that means you're. If you're not accepting them, that means you're backwards. You're archaic still.
Yeah.
I call it the Tupac mentality. Only God can judge me. Only God can judge me. Yeah. They always say.
That's
right?
back when people actually did believe in God.
And so it's true. But the thing that I'm saying though is that the reality though is that it's a command.
Yeah.
From Allah to enjoin the good and forbid.
Exactly.
Let there be a group among you that arises and enjoins the good and forbids the evil.
Yeah.
This is an injunction. It's something that and so much so that Allah says this is why we made you the best nation, because you do this.
Yeah.
If you don't do this,
you the best nation. Right.
You would not be this way if you did not do this. And this is why it's tied to our iman, the level of your iman in terms of how much you can, the whole hadith about if you see something wrong, correct it with your hands. If you're able to do so, and if you cannot, then correct it with your tongue. And if you're unable to do that, then correct it. Know in your heart that it is wrong. And this is a lowest form of iman, right? I mean, a lower form of iman. But nonetheless, this is all connected to the injunction in the Quran that if you see evil, if you see an impending harm, because that was one of the jobs of the Nabi, right? To be Bashir wa Nazir, like he was to warn and to give the glad hand and to warn the people. They go hand in hand.
Yeah.
The blessing and the warning. The all of this goes hand in hand. You can't just be giving the good things and leaving the warning, right?
Exactly.
It has to go hand in hand.
Balance, yes, sir.
Yeah.
But speaking of Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar, I don't know if you wanted to seal the deal now, but encouraging the good and forbidding the evil. Some of the Ahl Kitab had an issue in their college, in their Christian college, of what their version of enjoining the good and forbidding the evil, and they didn't hide behind it, and they were totally okay with being very transparent about the reason why they canceled a concert of a sort in their college, right?
So Florida College cancels singing group's concert due to lifestyle that contradicts scripture. No, that's a cute group.
That college would cancel you too for saying that.
The vocal group is called the Kings Singers, and one of them happens to be a homosexual.
Is it that? Or is it that he talks about, there's lyrics about promiscuity and like that kind of stuff? Because I was trying to read the article where I thought maybe it had to be with the whole LGBTQ thing, but I couldn't find that in there. And I thought...
No, I think it has to do with, them encouraging the themes of their songs.
Yeah, exactly. Encouraging like lustful behavior and that kind of stuff. And if that's
just one of the singers.
If that's the case, that's even better.
Yeah.
Because it's not... People could argue.
It says right here,
sorry,
the PCC canceled a concert with the King Singers upon learning that one of the artists openly maintained a lifestyle that contradicts scripture. The statement reads.
Yeah, but what is that?
Meaning, I'm thinking that one of the performers is a homosexual.
No,
a section referring to sexuality in the school's articles of faith notes, we believe that God has commanded that sexual activity be exclusively reserved to a man and a woman who are legally married to each other. It goes on to say that the scripture forbids sexual immorality, including adultery, fornication, homosexuality, bestiality, incest, and the use of pornography. The college says that the artists were treated with dignity and respect when informed of the cancellation. The King singers said they have performed at the college before.
Guess they had to revisit. They did their background checks. Guess they did some more research this time, right? Well, look, the principle is an interesting principle, right? That they stuck to.
Yeah, I mean they're not specifically saying.
They kind of alluded to it by that second paragraph. Yeah, but
I think it's pretty obvious that someone was gay in the band, and they don't want them performing.
But it's not just about being gay. I think it has to be with them like kind of promoting it, and it goes against their scripture. But
whatever it may be, all I'm saying is that if they didn't include it to also mean what they mentioned in their bylaws, which is sexual immorality, including adultery, fornication, homosexuality, bestiality, incest, and use of pornography, if it, any of that, it's all good, right? I'm saying it would be very interesting to see if that person was, or if their songs were inclusive of like, this whole idea of being sexual immorality and fornication and adultery, right? But if it's just about, the whole homosexual thing, that's fine too. But I mean, I think it would be a greater point if it was, I would respect it even more if it was simply just about, talking about love songs that, encourage people to have sex outside of marriage, right? Yeah. That would be a very strong stance, and it's admirable to do that, right? If they were to do that, right? And I think the reason why we brought this up is we were talking amongst ourselves, and how many of us think that, how many Muslim organizations would be willing to cancel a particular person for maybe not just homosexuality, but particular beliefs that one holds that are anti to our core Islamic values, right? And I think most of us said very little of them would actually stand on that principle. They might even offer another hand just because they want to be included and not be labeled as bigoted or a backward or draconian or whatever it may be, right? They want acceptance.
Well, it depends, right? I mean, I don't want it to be seemingly like, all Muslim organizations are like this. There are some mainstream organizations that are completely fine with people holding those kind of views or even practicing those views, and maybe they'll say, well, you know what, please just don't talk about it on our stage, but what you do in your private life is up to you, or something like that, and they'll just leave it alone. And
I was saying, based on that, like the next step, and I know many organizations based on who they are, some of them would fall into the camp. And again, look, bro, we all love our brothers and sisters. We're just trying to think of what standards have been diluted amongst ourselves. That's why we're having this conversation, not to point fingers and be like, hey, let's have this game and see which would be canceled. So I think which would basically fall in this trap. But I think that some Muslim organizations would fall into the spectrum of that we're going to cancel this concert or whatever this thing is, but we'll just say something else happened. We had some would probably be like, you know what, very few would be like, we can't have this conversation or this concert, whatever it would be, any event, because we disagree with the lifestyle. And they would probably answer the way. But the reason why we're having this conversation is how bold do you have to be to do that now? Because it's very difficult.
Well, you can't say it. I mean, exactly. even if you are a conservative Muslim organization, you don't have that kind of privilege that the Christian colleges have.
You're right.
Christian colleges are very large in number, and they have their funding, and they don't have a target on their back in terms of government scrutiny and other kinds of. They don't have the resources. They can easily those kind of colleges can take. Christian colleges can take something like that to the Supreme Court if they need to. Yeah, they'll have that kind of backing, But Muslim organizations, let's just say a conservative Muslim organization inadvertently invites someone they didn't know. Let's just give them a benefit of the doubt. They invite someone that has beliefs or even lifestyle choices that are contrary to Islamic beliefs, and they find out this and moments leading up to the conference. They have to cancel it. They're not going to give the true reason why they're canceling.
Yeah, Very true. I agree.
So I think, to be honest, the reason why Christian organizations can do this, including all the things that he mentioned, aside from it, is that their communities also are rallying around the same mindset.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think even the organizations that are bringing said individuals, or intentionally or unintentionally, it is only because the people that they're catering to are okay with these things, and probably even some ways wanting to be inclusive of this stuff, right? I'm talking about the ones that actually intentionally do this. And that's the problem, because the Christian organization knows that if they have to stay true to the stance because their donors want this. Meaning that their community is going to back them because this is how they all feel collectively, right? That, hey, we are Christians, we have values, and the values of this church and this idea, whatever, is going to be what we stand on. Unfortunately, in our communities, right, While the overwhelming majority of people are against these kind of things, no doubt, I would believe that for the most part. But unfortunately, people that are in the upper levels of some of these organizations, they have a very different view of what Muslims, compared to what normal Muslims have, right? Like in terms of, and they can justify it in different ways. Well, we want to make outreach. We're building bonds. We're doing this. We're trying to make Islam palatable. We're trying to bridge gaps between the communities, right? We have a struggle. It's a social justice thing. It's a humanitarian thing. They put all types of labels on there because at the core of it, they're trying to make their organization seem like a legitimate organization. And let's be honest, the reason why they're doing that is because they have given up on the idea that Muslims themselves are going to self-fund themselves and support them unconditionally, right? And so the ultimate reality is that Muslim organizations struggle to raise money. Absolutely. I mean, we do good at it for the most part, but we have to fight tooth and nail to extract pennies and dimes from people. Although we have to, but how many times do you have to go through that, right? And so what, it's a reflection. What I'm saying at the core of it is that it's a reflection of some failures of us as a community. Like if we truly backed an organization and said, listen, you know what, no matter what the media says about them, who cares what they say, our values are this, and we're going to continue to support the effort. Right? And we're going to give in, and we're going to be conscious, not just when the donation comes, meaning we know that this represents our views. So we're going to spend extra money. Right, we're going to create a dedicated effort to say it's our struggle too to keep it. A lot of guys just donate when people ask, but they don't see their struggle as the same struggle.
That's a great.
You see what I'm trying to say? Oh, I feel bad for the masjid. They're trying to do good. Let me give a couple bucks. Right? They're not thinking like, oh man, that masjid or that community, that organization is safeguarding my values. I want to invest in that. I need to give more to that.
Automate $500.
Yeah, automate money every month, right? To the masjid, because hey, if I don't, then that's going to go away. And who's going to be that voice that protects the views that we have?
Yeah, that's the problem. We don't have that in most of our organizations that are big. We don't have that faith and that confidence of we represent them and they represent me. That's not there.
And then what's the alternative? You have one of these major donors that come in, and unfortunately, that means that they get a say. Right? Unfortunately, many of these major donors, I'm sure there's many good ones, alhamdulillah, Allah protect them, but there's some that have their own, it's kind of like you feed me, I feed you. I'm giving you money so I get a say in what this is going to look like, right? And so they're left to take money from those individuals. They can't refuse it because the greater good, right? We want to keep the organization up and running. We can't ignore the years of what we've done, but that's a failure on our part. Because we haven't taken initiative to make sure that they're properly funded and they don't need to rely on people like this who can then influence what we're doing. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to this story. So the Pentagon apparently, or the United States Air Force, is shooting down. Let's rewind. A couple weeks ago, we heard about the Chinese balloon that was floating around in North Dakota or something, and taking up
space. Yeah.
Was it North Dakota or was it
somewhere over the Midwest?
It was one of those flyover states nobody cares about. But it was just hanging around, and the Chinese basically told them that don't rush to judgment or blah blah blah. But it turns out it was some kind of surveillance balloon, and eventually they took it down. Right, the Americans took it down. What has transpired since then is that the United States Air Force has started shooting at the UAPs, the unidentified aerial phenomena. Is it called phenomena? Yeah. It's basically UFOs. So they're starting to shoot at what they...
Is this real?
What has been reported over the past 2 years? That there's
Canada shut them down too.
Yeah. So
and there's some over, I believe, South America as well too that were also there. Okay.
So these are the things that some of the pilot jets have been reporting. Commander David Fravor, etc. Many of the people who have gone on to many different podcasts and YouTube channels across the world, telling them that, hey, we're seeing these objects that are flying around in airspace, in our airspace, and they have no visible propulsion system. They don't seem like they're tied down by the same laws of physics that we are. They're going in underwater and coming out and disappearing, like in incredible speeds. Almost at the speed of light.
Are they the same thing? Are they spherical, like a sphere, or are they
spheres? There's hexagonal
triangles,
hexagonal
pyramids,
objects,
kind of things,
pyramids, and
they move it. And the thing is that when you look at the camera, especially how fast they're going, they're moving like much faster than them. So and it's not just the movement, it's and the speed, it's the speed of the movements, the maneuverability. Like they're going up, down, left, right, like so quickly maneuvering in positions that pilots can't do.
So what happened when they shot them down?
Well, these are different, by the way. These are just balloons. Like they're not.
No.
Oh,
so
sorry.
the first one was the balloon.
Okay.
These other ones that they've shot at are not the Chinese balloons that came.
So have they recovered any?
These
of them?
are the UAPs. So that's the thing. Look, pay attention to the language. They're saying that they fired at it. Now, so they're saying here in this article, multiple flying objects that have been tagged for the most part as unidentified have been shot down by U.S. fighter jets. Another destroyed object was identified by the U.S. military as a Chinese surveillance balloon. We know about that one. Recovery crews are working to find and study the resulting debris to better understand where these intruders are coming from or came from and what they were doing in our skies. The attention these incursions are receiving could give rise to more reflection about the unidentified flying objects, UFOs, or unidentified aerial phenomena as they've been rebranded. What do these sky-high visitations mean to the UAP community? Are there any lessons to be learned from these incidents? Any takeaways from the pilot
But they didn't talk about anything they discovered within them.
That's the thing. Like, how are you firing at these things that are moving so fast? They couldn't even get their targeting systems on it. When David Fraser was talking about it, that it just moved so quickly that they could barely get pictures of it.
But that's what I'm saying. Like maybe it is similar to what this Chinese balloon was, because those UAPs that you're talking about they could never get a target lock on them.
But they're describing these as UAPs, though.
But that's the general term. That's just another word for UFO, right?
Right. So it may not be exactly the UAPs that they fired at.
Yeah.
That at least from the same UAPs that David Fraser and them have been commenting about, it could be some other surveillance type objects that the Chinese have made. There's much to be explained about. The thing about the Americans complaining about this is so hypocritical, because America does this to every country in the world that is their adversary.
Actually, America,
even their friends, they do it too.
America has China mapped out. And they had this back from the 1970s and 80s. Like they have, there was a story about this one Chinese guy who was going to go hiking around China, and he requested from the Department of Defense this entire roadmap of China. And I guess for some legal loophole, they had to provide it to him. And so it was that's how what he was using to hike around China. So what that's showing is that the U.S. government does the surveillance.
No, of course. I think people have known that for a really long time. I think the problem is now there's so much evidence surfacing. Everybody knows that everybody. It's like the world we live in. Everybody has to do it. I'm not saying it's okay. Everybody has to do it.
I think what Sim is arguing though is that some people are like, oh my God, how dare China surveil us and stuff like this. Like, oh, this is it's an open act of war against us and blah blah blah. People are getting this very hyper about it, right? But I think what Sim is showing is that no, we've been doing this to other countries for a very long time. And other countries have done it to other countries, and this is all part of. I mean, if you don't think that Google has or government bodies have access to what Google maps, what they output, of course, you must be delusional, right? Apparently, this is something very normal between governments and
it is. It's very normal. So one of the videos I saw, I thought it was like a video that somebody designed. It was this charcoal ball just flying through the air, and there was a fighter jet behind it. It was just where did I see it? On
the Tic Tac UFO. Is that what you're talking about?
I don't know. No. It was recent. It was on. I think it was on Facebook Reels or something like that. It was just the title was the guy was just another day just a normal day, and there's a black ball just hovering but going fast at the same time, and the fighter jet behind it, and I was like, well, that was weird, but maybe that was actually real.
Yeah, so right now it's not clear. At least from whatever the White House has released, they're saying that it's not the evidence that they have related to what they shot down is not extraterrestrial, meaning it's not UFOs per se. So it would be hard for me to believe that they shot down what David Fravor says that they saw, because that thing seems like it can easily dodge any kind of sophisticated American technology that, even the highest level of American technology could not shoot that thing down. How they would shoot this thing down would be beyond me. I think what they probably did shoot down was more surveillance craft that is being used by China to survey Canada and the United States and their military installations. But I don't think it was the UAPs. The UAPs, I think, will forever be a mystery to the United States. I don't think they'll end up figuring out what exactly is. The whole thing was always fascinating to me in this regard, because my brother would always ask me, like, dude, you read all these, like, philosophy books and stuff like that, and why do you care about these things? And my answer to him was that it's like an overlap of kind of the unseen and the scientific world.
You're a sci-fi fan anyways.
I like sci-fi, right?
Yeah.
That's true. The overlap thing.
But there's the overlap of science, modern day science, trying to figure out this hazy world where there's an intelligent being, like, especially if you study the whole Skinwalker Ranch phenomena. They're always one step behind, and the scientists who are there at Skinwalker Ranch are saying that this thing, or whoever it is, it's an intelligent being. It knows that we're looking for it, and it's only giving us what it wants us to see. Whatever we capture of it is only what it wants us to see. It never gives us a complete picture. It's calculated, so that we can understand what it is.
So it's calculated.
Yeah,
yeah. No, but speaking of this, like, and science and project, it's my kind of a theology thing. But when I heard this, dude, I was doing some research, and I kind of thought about it, and it blew my mind. I don't know. I'm gonna put this to you guys right now. First release for you guys. I haven't told this to any of you guys before. So I don't know how much you know. You know who Michio Kaku is, right? Like the Japanese guy, the physicist.
Wait, say the last name?
I think it's Michio Kaku. like the.
I thought you said cockroach.
No, Kaku. That's his name. Anyway,
we had a guy in college we gave a nickname to as Cockroach.
You're such a punk,
bro. Remember?
Just
Cockroach?
Continue your story, bro.
You remember Cockroach?
You better hope he doesn't hear this, dude.
No, that's his name.
But why don't you say it now?
He called himself Cockroach,
say
bro.
It now, bro. What if he's listening?
He's not listening, bro.
Love,
he doesn't like us. We're too modern for him.
Anyway,
he's a hardcore mujaddid,
Mujaddid. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. So you know how the world is like? He created this. He had this docu-series, okay?
Poor
and
Cockroach.
It's about God being the great mathematician, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's marrying the idea of quantum physics and traditional mathematics, right? And I don't want to get into the whole thing of it because A, it's too long, and B, I don't understand every concept of it. But it's a new field of science we're trying to study in, which is. Are you okay there,
yeah,
Chef? You want to poke some holes in?
I'm fine. Go
okay,
ahead.
all right. Just want to make sure. But anyways, so they're realizing that with atoms, there are submolecular components, right? Like even smaller than an atom, right? And they're subatomic particles, right? Smaller than an atom, okay? And what they're saying though is that these subatomic particles.
Are you talking about quarks?
I'm not sure, but just hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
But in order for these things to actually divide or to break or to cause, right? It cannot use this light, or it doesn't use any kind of kinetics, because that requires a form of energy to exist before, or some type of motion before. So what they've concluded that the only way it can be split is with sound. Okay. So think about that for a moment. And by the way, they call this the God particle, right? Yeah. So imagine this for a moment. When Allah wants to create something, what does He say? He says, kun fayakun. It's by his word. And they're saying that this is out in the universe, that this is what it was, the very basic block of all of this. And the only way it can be split is by literally voice. And when you hear the heavens, and when people that scientists have researched, we thought the universe was silent, right? But it turns out the universe is very noisy, right? In vibrations and things like that. And that's kind of tied also to the malaika, right? We can say maybe in some way form that they're making the tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're doing that. But I'm saying just the very fact that for that initial moment, for the Big Bang, it couldn't be kinetics, it couldn't be energy, it couldn't be anything else, like a speed of light or any of these things. It had to be sound that did it. And Allah, we know Allah says, kun fayakun, be, and it is.
Allah.
It's amazing to me if you think about it from that perspective. I don't know if it can be relatable, but if it was, I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Allahu Akbar. Wow.
I'm still like trying to tie it to what we're talking about.
No, I'm just saying how, because you're talking about science, what we don't know about how we're trying to we're just always step behind.
The new instruments that are being used to capture the unseen.
Right, and the unseen, and what we thought we knew about things, like atoms were for a long time thought these are small neutrons, protons. Like we thought we had it figured out. That was what
but even with the UFOs, we were
making proton, all these things were making.
But what's being thrown out the window now is the whole materialism theory, where everything that we base our, Sam Harris is one of the biggest materialist proponents out there. He thinks everything in your life is programmed the way it's going to play out because of the way the atoms and the molecules in your brain have been structured, and everything in the universe is playing out. He believes in qadr, but in a secular way.
It's predestined, almost like
he believes in predestined because everything in the universe is interacting within the laws of physics, and he doesn't believe in anything beyond that.
So it's all calculated.
Yeah. So it's kind of fascinating in that sense that he believes in qadr, but in the absence of God.
That's weird.
Right? Yeah. Because he believes in the material world following the laws of nature the way it's supposed to.
The naturalist.
So he's completely like black and white on this. Like he believes there's no other way you can impact anything to change what is destined for it, because the laws of nature are the ultimate.
Do you know what's odd about that? People who believe that we don't have choices. Like, I didn't choose to be here today. They believe that this is something already designed. And it's so odd to think that, because nothing has choices, right?
Yeah.
But we know there's clearly events in life where we have choices, right?
Yeah, but he doesn't believe that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. But anyways, and so what Sim is saying is they're starting to challenge these things that we can't actually trace it back to specific formulas or algorithms that say, okay, everything is designed a certain way. It's much more complex than that.
Yeah. Anyway,
even put it this way, even the idea of how we understand time. Look at this thing. Allah swears by time, right? And there's a hadith, I believe, that I am time, so don't curse it. It means that he created it in his hand, right? And imagine this. Time, like matter and time have to coexist. You can't have matter without time and time without matter, right? Because what is time? Time is, it's a measurement used, right? To say, the order of sequences. First there was this, then there was this. The time between these two movements is what these actions or whatever it may be, or change in state, is what we call time, right? Like for example, 1 minute has gone by. Certain rotation went certain much, so now it creates past, present, and future. So what they're saying though now is, like, for example, for example, right now, it's T, like if I'm going to go to something like in an hour, it's T minus 1, right? Because the original T, and they say that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because in order for the universe to exist, because Allah exists outside of time, right? He's not controlled by time. Because he's al-ahad, right?
Yeah.
He's exactly. So, but when he creates something, the moment that creation starts is when time begins. Time has to be created first, right? It has to be, because then the matter, like for example, when he creates his arsh, this is not from his that, this is his creation. khalqallah, right? So time has started, right? So these things are, but just understanding, now look at this time. You know how we say, well, how did Allah create the heavens and the earth in 6 and 7 days? Why did it take this many time? Again, that's in relation to us. Do you think that time, I mean, this is really complex, but even gravitational pulls are in relation to all of this, our perception, perceived time. Like, do you think time operates the same way on Mars as it does on Earth? No, they have 48 hour, or I think it's 47-hour days or something like that.
Yeah.
Even by the method of using how we calculate time would have to change. Even the way the tools that we have would not work there, because it's on a different perception and in relation to the sun and the orbit and gravity, gravitational pulls. So even this, we still haven't figured out what we think is a fact. Like, hey, I know it's an hour from now. You don't know that. Like, that's what we perceive it to be. And that's kind of where the way science is right now, where we're looking at the galaxies, we're looking at the oceans. It's funny that we try to look at the space and celestial bodies, but we haven't even really explored the deepest depths of the ocean yet.
Yeah.
And the Earth is majority water.
Yeah.
And we don't know what the oceans actually contain, which is amazing to me.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyways. Long tangent or something different, but it's just that we have to know that I think the benefit for us in this is that science may come with one thing, and it may challenge what we know, what we believe in some ways, but it isn't the absolute truth. It's continually changing. In our lifetimes, we've also seen something become a planet and a star. And just so many different things about even the universe being silent, being open, where all these things that we continually evolve in science, it's something you would actually argue is a good way to check something, but it's not the absolute truth.
Very.
So, yeah.
Folks, is there anything to wrap up the show with?
Yeah.
When is Ramadan starting?
March.
Sorry, I said May. March 23rd, I think.
Are you a Shia, sir?
Oh, March 23rd. That's still a ways away, right?
That's less than 2 months.
About a month and a half, yeah. But one thing before you do wrap up, make sure you guys are donating to Syria and Turkey. Yeah, make sure you guys donate to Syria and Turkey. Like, there's, subhanAllah, I think the death toll is over 30,000, close to 30,000 people now.
Is it the worst earthquake ever?
No. I think there was since 1999.
Turkey,
No, since 1999, there was a stronger.
Stronger in Turkey. I should say more damage has been done in this.
Along about the damage, but the last time they had something this large, like 7.8 or 8 Richter, was like in, I think, 1999. I don't know how many people died then, but nonetheless, right? People have died. There's suffering. There's a lot of assistance that's needed. There are brothers on the ground that have gone there that are in the midst of rubble. They had to evacuate because certain things are not safe. By the way, on this note, there's so many things happening. Like, I was watching in Petra, like the floods that came, like they had to evacuate Petra, because of and this is something that, by the way, the original Arab al-Ba'ida, they had to leave because of this massive kind of floods. This is what made them migrate out of Yemen and go to other places. But there's so many things that are happening, and we know that there are no coincidences in Islam. Everything happens.
A lot of weather changes, a lot of human changes, so many things happening. And it's kind of scary, man. I was thinking about that 2 days ago, about how certain things happened to the past nations, and they were in complete forgetfulness, and they least expected it, and they were given so many opportunities and chances, and they were at their pinnacle.
It won't be me. It won't be me.
We have too much. We have so much to even back us up if anything happens, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I won't be a victim.
Yeah,
I'm cool. I'm safe. Yeah. Look at Ad, right? Yeah. Who's stronger than us? Yeah. Who's going to be bigger than us? Who's going to be strong? Who can take us out?
Yeah.
Anyways, what were you saying? You were looking at something with something.
No, I was just looking at some of the worst earthquakes are insane. In Haiti, there was 316,000 people died. Wow.
Was that an earthquake or tsunami?
It was an earthquake.
Oh wow.
When was this?
Do we know what the numbers were in 1999 in Turkey?
That was around 25,000, I think.
So we're on the same right now, roughly.
This is more, it seems like.
Yeah, maybe. But anyways, the point being is that people are suffering, and make dua for them. And if you can't give any money, make dua for the people of right now, especially in India. There are people are demolishing homes. I don't know if you guys have seen some of that stuff where they're demolishing homes now again. Like they're following their Israeli masters and starting to demolish homes, and the ramping up efforts against the Kashmiris. So, make sure you keep these people in your dua.
I mean,
it's something they need.
Yeah. And we still have the links to the charities that we support in the episode description. So if you want to go to Heroic Hearts, who we know is working on the ground over there, hchearts.org, to work with them. And as well, there is, who else?
Islamic Oasis. There's
Syria Needs You. That is the one that Bilal Abdul Karim is working with.
Do you have any word from him yet?
No, basically he's they need all the relief they can get, and that's basically what's the situation on the ground. They're still trying to clear up rubble, and it's a really bad situation, guys. I think it's one of those moments that made me think. I'm like, is it worth, like, is this like some kind of test for me to just give everything I have saved,
SubhanAllah. Wow.
I was like thinking, I'm like, wait, is this one of those tests where I'm going to be asked, why didn't I just give up everything I have saved up and
SubhanAllah.
and give it up? But then I'm like, you know what? Then just back and forth, like, oh, I have these debts I have to pay off and blah blah blah. I'm like, this would be something that I should ask Sheikh Amir about.
Those internal wars are horrible.
No, but yeah, man, like how do you come up with like a decision? Because we live in almost such a debt-ridden society where we're always under debt. And at one point, what do you say? Can you make this determination that, hey, forget this debt, I'm going to pay it later, and I'm just gonna give up whatever I have.
I thought about this. Can I tell you what I worked as a solution?
تفضل يا شيخ.
No, but the thing is though, is that we know from the hadith that Allah loves the deeds you do consistently, right?
Allah loves what?
The deeds that you do consistently, right? Especially in charity and sadaqah, right? So say, listen, you have your debts and obligations. Most of us who are in the position to do so generally receive a monthly income. Say, from this money, I'm going to give X amount of dollars every month until they need it. So therefore, you're kind of rectifying and saying, listen, I'm taking care of my own, but I'm also saying I'm going to be giving as much as I can from the salary I'm getting, and I'm pledging this. And say, when that is done, go to the next cause that people need, right? You can divide the money how you want to, but this way, what you're doing is you're saying, listen, on top of the zakah that I'm giving, that you're at least, it's the little that you do that you build up. If everyone can say, listen, I'm going to donate, 5% of my salary, or from a monthly check, right? And they did it consistently, all these people would be fed. Everybody would be cured. In that sense, right? So the way I rectify it is, I have obligations. I can't just give everything, because tawakkul is also making the right decisions, like planning and then executing, right? You can't just say, oh, I'm going to give everything and then not expect, to be in a position of hardship, right? You have obligations to family, other organizations, other people in your family, your community. So the idea is to kind of balance it out and say, listen, I have this as a reserve for my family, which is an obligation for me. The Nabi said I should leave a certain portion as reserve for the family. And then from here, what I'm getting monthly as rizq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from this, I'm going to say, listen, a portion goes to my savings, a portion goes to my bills, and I have money left over. From this portion, I'm going to pledge 5, 10, whatever percentage you want, but make sure it's consistent, because what happens is you build the habit. If you build up saying, listen, I'm going to give, let's say every check you get $3,000 every check, and you said, you know what, you get it bi-weekly. You said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give from this check, I'm going to give $300 every month, every time I get a check. So $600 in the month, right? Whatever it may be. Now, what happens is that when you do that part, right, the next time a big thing happens and you want to give money, it's easier for you to give extra money, because you're already like, oh, I'm already giving this.
That's great thinking,
right? It's not like you're losing a big amount. And then think about that. In a year, you've given more than $12,000. Yeah. And it wouldn't even feel like you gave a lot. Yeah. Because you know what's going to happen? You're going to go on Amazon and buy something real quick for $100. Yeah. Right? That's crazy, bro. So just automate it and just give it, because what happens is we overburden and say, oh my God. What we do is we wait to the last minute and say, oh my God, I got to give thousands right now. Yeah. Right? But if we give it over courses of time, it becomes something that is easier to do.
Yeah. More, look, you have given some amazing practical advice, so I think everyone should follow, right? That's amazing. But let me tell you a little something else of what Sim's internal wrestle is. No, the internal wrestle is this, and I know exactly what he's talking about because the way he said it, it struck a crazy chord with me. This is what happens. You see these things happen. You're like, dude, you know what? I have this much saved up. What am I doing with this saved up money? I can accumulate and save up later, so I should give all of this away. This is this is how strong the waswas of shaitan is, bro. It's real. Because the monthly thing, that sounds cool, but to you, you're going to go back home and be like, and you're not going to do that, and you're going to fight over this, giving everything you have saved up. The giving little thing, a little bit a month, even consistency, that's very true. But what ends up happening is, maybe people like him and me, is that this small automation thing, like, why am I giving piecemeal when I can give all this away? But then when you come to giving the all the way portion, you're like, dude, I need to give it all away. And then there's this crazy internal
no action,
and then you start feeling like munafiq, bro.
So there's no action then?
Because you're like,
no, it's not about it. It's a crazy way of thinking.
You think about Abu Bakr and Umar, donating
that's
everything. That's the example that always comes to my head. I'm like, Abu Bakr gave away everything. Why can't you choose him? I'm like, oh man. Then I'm like, wait, you have this and this. You have all these different responsibilities you gotta take care of, and then are you taking away rights from your family because of donating everything? And then you're like, you just go on and on in circles, and
the circle.
Yes, you're right. I end up giving. I end up giving some amount, right. But then you're like, but what am I doing with all this?
Bro, that's the worst.
Yeah, mashallah, you guys are holy. I don't have that.
That had nothing to do with holy, bro.
No, I don't have that problem.
It just means that shaitan probably doesn't come to you as much as he could.
No. I'm just a selfish bastard, probably.
Whoa, easy.
No. Because listen. Because I don't.
You said pastor.
Yeah, pastor. Anyways, listen. The idea here is just like, I know I don't feel guilty for having that saved up. I'm like, listen, Allah has given me something. From this I give, right?
Yeah.
And so,
but you don't make as much as me and Sim do. That's the problem.
That's true.
That's the problem. Yeah. You don't make so much money.
The thing,
you don't know what it feels like. You don't know what it feels like to be the 1%.
That's true. So from whatever I do have, the little scrum that I have.
Yeah.
But the idea is that Allah gave it to me for a reason. It's barakah.
Yeah.
And from that you give. And I can tell you because look, for example, let's say you give everything to Turkey, right? Tomorrow there's going to be a guy you see who needs food to eat. What do you do with this person?
Yeah, you're right.
It's better to be consistent and say, listen, I can give every month, and then that leaves me, allowing me to do other work. Like there's going to be a thing for India tomorrow, a thing for Kashmir, the Uyghurs. What would happen in Bosnia or Afghanistan or even Pakistan. Do you know what they're saying? I heard something today. They're saying that prostitution for women has gone up by 20% in Pakistan. They're forced to do this because they don't have money to eat.
No. World leaders, man.
So what I'm saying is that if you do focus on one entire effort, you're done for the day. You're done. I mean, that's no more left to give.
Yeah.
For the next couple, 5-6 years, you have nothing to give.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You want to develop, even if it's like a monthly thing that it's automatically deducting from your bank account.
But would you consciously, sorry to cut you off, Sim, would you consciously feel better, you personally? This question is directly to you because I have a certain thing of what you said. What you said is true too, but my mind is a little twisted, bro. Look, would you feel better that if you gave away everything, you didn't have anything to give, so you wouldn't feel guilty if someone asked you?
I think I would, man.
So woe to me, simple.
I'm like, well,
I feel bad.
I literally don't have anything.
I actually feel happy. I'm like, dude, I don't have anything.
Yeah.
Why would you feel happy?
I don't know. Dude,
there's somebody that, hey, I'm hungry today, I can't eat.
No, but
sorry, bro, I got no money to give you anymore.
No, and I really wouldn't. I really wouldn't have any money.
Because then the other layer creeps in your mind, like, well, there's all these governments that are giving billions and billions. Your little chump change is not going to make a difference compared to the billions that are coming.
No, I think the difference is just
how much aid, guys?
Wait,
how much aid is Turkey and Syria getting from world countries?
Billions.
They're getting billions.
Yeah, but the problem though is that here's the thing. This is why I say do it small increments because what's needed right now is the immediate response. Governments take time to move money, right? I guess in a month or so there'll be billions of dollars in their hands to rebuild and everything. They'll have that, right? But that's why I say immediate disaster relief. Because while it takes time for these government organizations and the red tape to get through and move money and verify, they don't have time for that. This is the immediate. They don't need your $80,000, $100,000 from one person. They just need everyone to give money, whatever they can at the moment, so they can build these things. You know what I mean? So the idea is that eventually that money will come to them, right? Saudis and Khalid, they donate money. They do, right? And other organizations do. We know the UN hasn't done nothing, right? They're not going to do much in this case. But what I'm saying is, this is why I'm trying to say that, in my opinion, I would feel satisfied knowing, hey, listen, I gave a good amount. I'm giving, like, for example, I don't want to just brag or anything, but like if I see something and okay, today I gave like 200, like in a few days I'll give another 100, I'll give another 200, and I keep doing this because number one, it doesn't feel like it's a burden on me, and number two, what happens is that it's coming in consistently. If I donate, like for example, they donated a whole bunch of food and that food can go bad, right? And then now, a week later, what happens? Where's the consistency? At least these organizations can plan and say, hey, listen, when we do a fundraiser, we can get, at any given time, within a week, we can get 100 grand. Let's budget for that. So let's say every week, 100 grand, we can do $400,000 a month. We can budget from this and say, this is how many people we can take. Our organization single-handedly can take care of this many people because we get $400,000. $100, 1,000 feed the family to 20 people. Right, whatever, just giving, they can start calculating, right, until the government aids come in. So that the notion of having just to give everything at one time, and I also say this too, conceptualize what Abu Bakr and them were doing, radiallahu anhum. There was no state. This was the most, even the state of Islam was impoverished. Yeah. Every Muslim was impoverished in that point, right? Here we have governments, mashallah, that eventually will, when they can move their money, they will do that. It's not like there's nothing to give. Yeah. But they were, and also they did not live a life where they had to pay on their properties and things. These were things that they were independent. Yeah, this is going back to the hadith I mentioned last one, being independent, right? So what I'm saying is that the consistency is what is required. It's not so much the all at one time, because that's really, in my opinion,
I agree with you 100%.
It's not going to benefit either person. In the short term, it might, but in the long term, it's going to harm you, and the organization is not really. It's a drop in the penny, right? I mean, it's just going to go there, and then that's fine. I mean, Allah will give you the intention, no problem. But I would rather it be something that you can continually do.
100%. It's just that what's west is strong, man.
Yeah, man.
Allah protect us.
Look, I think to really counter that though, you have to know your intention. Are you being greedy? Are you trying to hoard money, or is it because you generally have concerns? Allah knows you're in innamal a'malu binniyat, right? Are you trying to say, oh my God, I want to save this so I can just buy this big car, or I want to get this? Or
it just sucks, man, that you go on Amazon and you spend $100 on something does your family really need that? But does your family? Oh, you're at the grocery store. Well, I could have gotten the regular, milk that's not organic. Yeah. And
for $2.50, $3.
Yeah, for $2. But I ended up getting the organic milk. Yeah.
I'm not going to $8
if it's really organic.
I don't buy that crap, but it's my wife who wants organic. You know what I'm saying?
But that's what I'm saying. I
don't believe
right? Like if you can do $100 on Amazon, you can do $100. It's easy to give $100 in sadaqah. You give it. So it's like the way you spend on yourself, spend in sadaqah.
You're right.
That's the wisdom, right? You're saying, hey, listen, I'm not going to go today and spend $50,000 on myself right away. I'm just not going to do that, right? I'm going to try to avoid doing that. I want my money, my reserve money to last, right? The same way I do with my shopping, I do with my sadaqah. I just give and say, okay, 100 this time, 200 this time. It's a habit. You end up doing it.
Oh, man. I don't know, man. It's like...
Mort's giving a lot for getting $3,000 bi-weekly a month, bro. That's a lot for giving $200 there, and you only make $3,000 bi-weekly. That's pretty impressive, bro.
You are a huge douchebag.
What? I'm just saying. You told us how much you make a month. 3,000 paychecks of $3,000, and then every other day you get $200. That's a lot of dedication, bro.
I make less than that, bro.
Alhamdulillah, bro. MashaAllah. There's a lot of product on your
I didn't say, by the way, I didn't say how much I make. I said if you make $3,000.
Oh, anyway, sorry.
Would you like me to tell you my financial share on the air? I can do that for you.
Bro, this is just, I just wanted to make Sim laugh. I want to make him happy. I knew he's going to laugh at my joke, bro. That's all it was.
Yeah, because my sadaqah and yours are going to be very different.
Of course.
Yeah, just so you know.
I know that.
Because...
Woo! All right.
Anyways, guys, that was great.
that's our show, everyone. Would we? That guest is not confirmed yet, but I have an excellent, exciting episode for you guys coming up, and just stay tuned. We'll give you some details soon, inshallah. All right, we'll see y'all next time. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.